So, by now we've all heard that Aaron Rodgers is set to join the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what is my take on it? Honestly, I don't have a big one. This was kind of one of the worst kept secrets in sports. We always knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to join. There was like a small list of teams that were interested in him, and basically all of those were answered after the draft. So it's like, okay, it's not going to be the Titans. The Browns have like 25 quarterbacks. It's not going to be the Giants, still in Jersey. The only teams that were available were the Steelers, and then after Derek Carr retired, the Saints. And Aaron Rodgers said, "I don't want to live in Louisiana." On that thing, it's like, bro, you don't get to be that picky and choosy at this time of your career. If you still want to play football at approaching 42 years old, whoever offers you something, you have to accept it. You just have to, and that's the unfortunate truth. But Aaron Rodgers joining the Steelers, I don't get why the Steelers did this. I really don't, because the way I think about it is, you had Russell Wilson and you had Justin Fields. You didn't draft a quarterback until the 6th round, so you didn't really draft a quarterback. You brought back Mason Rudolph. I mean, this is just bad business from the Steelers. Either you keep Justin Fields, and that can be your quarterback for the long perceived future. He's obviously going to be the quarterback of the Jets now, funny enough. Or you just stick forward with Russell Wilson. He's a bit older. Keep him, because he probably still has maybe 2 or 3 years of football left in him, good football left in him. He's like 6 years younger than Aaron Rodgers. You just keep him and keep along going with him. Why would you take a quarterback who's older, who's been injured more recently, and who has clearly shown that he's not the player that he once was? Now, let me be clear. Aaron Rodgers is I still believe that he's the most talented quarterback in NFL history. He's right up there with Mahomes on pure talent. Not what they accomplished, because Brady's in a league of his own still, but just on pure talent. He's either 1 or 2 in NFL history. He was that good. I've never seen anybody throw a football like Aaron Rodgers. And even times with the Jets last year, I was like, that's just different. Even at 41 years old, that's just different. You can't teach that. His arm is just next level. So you got to give respect to that. But he doesn't move like the same quarterback that he used to be. He doesn't have the ability to escape, get out of the pocket, be mobile anywhere close to what he used to, which makes sense given his age. And he doesn't have the weapons that he did even in New York. He basically handicapped the Jets and basically told them, you get me Devontae Adams, you get me Alan Lazard. He had Garrett Wilson. He had weapons that he could reliably throw to. The Steelers got rid of George Pickens. Let's not forget that. They still have Demetri Johnson. I forget his name. They still have some guys, but the Steelers don't have anywhere near the same receiving core that the Jets did, believe it or not, even though the Jets were a way worse team, because Mike Tomlin, with his great coaching, always finds a way to get his team to the playoffs. It'd be hilarious if, with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, this was the first season where the Steelers don't have a winning record. That would be his signal to retire. I think he should have retired already, but that would be his signal to retire. The worst part about Aaron Rodgers is not his aging. It's not his injury. It's not the stuff that he says off the field and the stuff that he does off the field, even though that's a bit crazy. It's like, whatever. The worst part about him is, even though his play has decreased because, he's just gotten older and he's gotten injured, the amount of stuff that he commands and enforces and says, I must have, from his front office, from the ownership group, from the general managers, from the coaches, is still otherworldly. He comes in and has all of these crazy demands. We see clearly that does not work. When Russell Wilson came to the Denver Broncos, they gave him everything. They gave him $243 million. They gave him a bunch of parking spaces at the stadium. They gave him his own office on the second floor of the Broncos facility. And that got them what? Absolutely nothing. And I'm not totally blaming Russell Wilson, because I do believe Nathaniel Hackett played a part in it. It wasn't fully Russell Wilson. Nathaniel Hackett probably wasn't ready to be a head coach. And they brought in Sean Payton, who is very proven. And he just said all this stuff with Russell Wilson cannot fly. And Russell Wilson wasn't bad in his last year in Denver, but clearly it was like, if he's not an MVP type level of player, the Broncos were going to move on. And what do we see here with the Steelers? They clearly are in this lull, this quarterback lull. It's like Mike Tomlin is so convinced in this older style of play from 20 years ago that we develop every other position and the quarterback doesn't need to be a megastar. Now, that works in college, and that used to work in the NFL 20 years ago. But with the way they've instructed the rules to make it that it's all about the quarterback and the passing game, that just isn't going to fly anymore. You got Najee Harris, you got TJ Watt, you got Hayward, you have pieces, but they don't have the impact that they once did in this league when you first came up. And even during the time when you won your Super Bowl against the Cardinals, that crazy game. Football is just so much different now. And for him to say, I'm going to get a placeholder 42-year-old quarterback when I had two other guys who I still believe could be starting quarterbacks in this league there, I believe that's a miss from him. And look, it's not totally the Steelers' fault because they're still in the Kenny Pickett lull, because Kenny Pickett was supposed to be their quarterback of the future. Mike Tomlin, very obviously doesn't really draft quarterbacks high because he had Big Ben forever. But Kenny Pickett was supposed to be the guy, the changing of the guard. He was the only quarterback picked in the first round that year in a very weak quarterback class that included Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder. And he basically clearly thought that Kenny Pickett was supposed to be the next one. The moment that didn't work, he had to quickly audible. All right, let's get Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. But I thought, okay, if you do that, get Russell Wilson for a year, because Russell Wilson was making like no money because the Broncos still owed him $30-something million. So the Steelers literally paid him $1 million, which for quarterback money is absolutely nothing. I would love to have $1 million per year, but for quarterback money is nothing. But now he understands that if we kept him, we would have to pay him. And I understand that you would also have to pay Justin Fields because he's getting there. I think he just finished his 4th year. So maybe this was a pure money thing, but I know the money hasn't been announced yet, but is Aaron Rodgers going to play for peanuts? Is he going to play for absolutely nothing? He did took technically a pay cut to go play with the Jets, from $55 million to like $35 million a year or something like that. But are you going to get Aaron Rodgers on anything less than $20 million a year? I don't see how. If Aaron Rodgers accepts a contract less than $15 million a year, I will be blown away and congratulate him. I will congratulate him and say, look at you. You're actually thinking about your team. You understand that getting another Super Bowl will impact the way we think about you much greater than just making more money, because you've made a ton of money. And guess what? Even with all your controversies, even with the stuff that has happened to you off the field, people will still find a way to throw money at you. Maybe not in the same way that they did with Tom Brady, where they gave him a 10-year, $375 million broadcasting deal, but people will still throw money at you in some way after you retire. So what's more important? Trying to go out there and win another Super Bowl. And I'll be honest, all of the surefire teams that could potentially compete for one, they already got their guy. That's why they're in the position to where we say they could win a Super Bowl. So your best shot is to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. You have a decent cast because Mike Tomlin just knows how to identify personnel as well as he can. It's not the receiving core in terms of name power that you had with the Jets, but maybe they can make it work. I forgot to mention you have DK Metcalf. I totally forgot that he came up. DK Metcalf, absolutely stud. So maybe you have a little bit of stuff there, but Aaron Rodgers, it's all on you. It is all on you. Because I just don't believe that you can be the quarterback that leads a team to a Super Bowl anymore. I don't. The track record hasn't told me that. And part of it isn't your fault. I understand you got injured in the first game against the Jets. Against the Bills with the Jets. Maybe that could have led somewhere. Because after that season was over and basically your whole tenure in New York was over. But let's see what can happen, because I just don't see how this is a smart move on either side. For Aaron Rodgers, I see it's a smart move. You want to play more football, you want to make more money, go ahead. But for the Steelers, maybe just go get a young rookie in the first round or the second round. Shador was still there until round 5. You could have picked him in round 3 or 4. That's a whole different conversation. And I understand you didn't want to pay Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, but I would rather you have taken somebody in the early, mid-second round. I understand you're not going to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback. Then go get Aaron Rodgers and have nobody as a definitive replacement. So what's the plan now? You play Aaron Rodgers. The hope is that you make the playoffs again. Your draft pick isn't going to be high enough to get one of the really good quarterbacks next year. I don't know if Arch Manning's going to come out, but he's probably going to be a top 5 pick if he does come out. Even if he's not amazing in his first full year starting in Texas, just the name power alone. So I don't know. I really don't know what Mike Tomlin is cooking, but hey, I'll trust him, because let's not forget that last year he benched Justin Fields the moment that Russell Wilson was healthy to play, even though they were undefeated with Justin Fields. So maybe he clearly knows something that we don't, and he's just going to use his wit and his intelligence to say, I'm going to do this because I can manage this guy in a way that these other coaches have failed to do. That Robert Saleh failed to do. That Mike LaFleur, towards the end of his career time in Green Bay when he was winning back-to-back MVPs, failed to do. So let's see what happens. But Aaron Rodgers, it is all on you.